Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Tuesday, July the 15th, 2025, the 196th day of the year. It's the third of 5 Tuesdays this month, and National Gummy Worm Day. I personally go for the traditional over the sour ones. And if you're flying today, be prepared to be sour. Nationwide flight delays at airports across the country due to weather conditions in several areas of the country, severe weather conditions. And space travel has now become so routine, you likely didn't know there were 4 international space travelers up on the International Space Station for the past few weeks. 2 from India, Poland, and Hungary, along with American Commander Peggy Whitson, who now works for a company called Axiom Space, which chartered the private mission. These were all citizens who returned to Earth this morning, courtesy of a SpaceX capsule that splashed down off the coast of San Diego in the fog this morning.
SpaceX copies splashdown and Stable 1. On behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
Happy to be back.
Crazy, right? The next crewed mission to the ISS is scheduled for July 31st, when 2 Americans, 1 Russian, and 1 Japanese astronaut will make the trip. Today's highly anticipated CPI report, the Consumer Price Index for the month of June, showed a 0.3% increase in prices, putting the 12-month inflation rate at 2.7%, which was right in line with what analysts were expecting, perhaps giving Jerome, the profit killer Powell, the Fed chairman, another reason not to cut interest rates. One more thing that is going to cost you more money are forever stamps. The U.S. Postal Service quietly raising the price of forever stamps from 73 cents up to 78 cents. President Trump is headed to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today, the Burgh, to participate in the first ever Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation event. This after a big announcement in an Oval Office meeting yesterday with his new buddy, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte.
And we've made a deal today, and I'm going to have Mark speak about it, but we've made a deal today where we are going to be sending them weapons and they're going to be paying for them. The United States will not be having any payment made. We're not buying it, but we will manufacture it and they're going to be paying for it. Our last meeting of a month ago was very successful in that they agreed to 5%, which is more than $1 trillion a year, so they have a lot of money. And these are wealthy nations. They have a lot of money, and they want to do it. They feel very strongly about it, and we feel strongly about it, too. But we're in for a lot of money, and we don't want to do it anymore, and we can't.
So Trump went to the NATO summit last month, successfully brokered deals for NATO allies to pay more money, and now has made a deal with NATO for them to pay us to make military equipment for Ukraine, and in some cases for NATO allies as well.
We've been very successful in settling wars. You have India, Pakistan, you have Rwanda and the Congo. That was going on for 30 years. India, by the way, and Pakistan would have been a nuclear war within another week, the way that was going. That was going very badly. And we did that through trade. I said, we're not going to talk to you about trade unless you get this thing settled, and they did. And they were both great leaders, and they were great. But Rwanda and the Congo, that was going on for 30 years. And at least 7 million people killed with a lot of pretty rough weapons like machetes, heads chopped off, going on for many years. You couldn't even get near the countries. Nobody wanted to get near. It's so frightening. And we got that one solved. Serbia, Kosovo, got that solved. That was going to be one that was going to happen. And again, that was something I used. I use trade for a lot of things. But it's great for settling wars. That was really very important. Marco is working very hard with everybody here on the Strip, the Gaza Strip. I call it the Gaza Strip, one of the worst real estate deals ever made. They gave up the oceanfront property, one of the worst deals ever made. But it was supposed to bring peace, and it didn't bring peace. It brought the opposite. But we're doing pretty well on Gaza. Steve Witkoff is here, and I think we could have something fairly soon to talk about. And we solved other one that we just seem to have, Armenia and Azerbaijan. It looks like that's going to come to a conclusion, successful conclusion. We worked on Egypt with a next-door neighbor who It's a good neighbor. They're friends of mine, but they happened to build a dam which closed up water going into a thing called the Nile. I think if I'm Egypt, I want to have water in the Nile, and we're working on that one. It's a problem, but it's going to get solved. They built one of the biggest dams in the world, a little bit outside of Egypt. You know about that. You've been hearing about that one. And that turned out to be a big problem. I don't know. I think the United States funded the dam. I don't know why they didn't solve the problem before they built the dam. But it's nice when the Nile River has water. It's a very important source of income and life. It's the life of Egypt. And to take that away is pretty incredible. But we think we're going to have that solved very quickly. So we do good. The only one we haven't been able to get to yet is Russia.
President Trump in Monday's Oval Office meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. You heard the president reference U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matthew Whitaker, who was in the Oval Office meeting. And following that meeting, he spoke with Katrina Zisch and Bob Brooks on American Agenda.
Ambassador, thank you so much for coming on. Good to see you. Just talk about the meeting and what's going to happen next and the progress that you're seeing here.
Yeah, well, good to be with you, Bob. What I would say is it's straightforward. We have a situation where Ukraine needs weapons, and they're obviously fighting bravely. They have only given up about 1% of the territory in the last 18 months. It's really extraordinary. But they need weapons. And so the United States makes the best weapons in the world. We have now cut a deal, of course, with President Trump being the lead negotiator, to make sure that American weapons are available to Ukraine and being paid for by Europe, our European NATO allies. But at the same time, I want to emphasize to you, Bob, that this does not put the United States at a strategic disadvantage. We got to make sure, and we're going to make sure, that we don't give anything that we need, that it's just extra things that we're manufacturing here in the United States by American workers and by the American middle class, and that we're selling those to our European allies and they're providing them to Ukraine. I think it's a smart solution. Obviously, President Trump is the one that came up with the idea, and we're all moving out as quickly as we can to make sure that we can execute what he wants.
Ambassador Whitaker, we know that President Trump gave Putin a 50-day deadline, so to speak, in terms of coming to a ceasefire agreement. In the interim, what are your hopes and the president's hopes in terms of what these weapons will provide to Ukraine?
Well, that's an important point. The second part of the announcement today was the fact that in 50 days, if there's not a ceasefire, that secondary sanctions of 100% will be applied. And those are to countries, not to Russia. These are to countries that are buying Russian oil, and primarily India, China, and a few other countries. And I think that sends a very clear message from the United States of America. President Trump is a peacemaker, and he's going to do whatever it takes to end this war. And he's got the proof to show it. He's, solved the India-Pakistan war. He's brought peace to Congo. And he's brought, so many other pieces. Quite possibly Armenia and Azerbaijan could be ending their conflict because of President Trump's interventions. And so, the weapons together with these potential sanctions, I think, are a really powerful package, ultimately to get Vladimir Putin to the table. He's not winning on the battlefield. He's lost 100,000 soldiers have been killed. Russian soldiers have been killed on the battlefield in Ukraine in the last 6 months. It is a slaughterhouse, and we need to end it. President Trump knows that, and he wants to bring this to peace. But at the same time, he has all the cards. President Trump is going to play every single card he has to make sure that, first of all, it's in the American people's interest, and secondly, that there's peace in the world, because we need to end the conflict, we need to end the killing, and President Trump sees that very clearly. But it's going to take both sides to come to the table. And Ukraine has demonstrated that they're willing to make a peace deal, and now we just need Russians to come to the table as well.
U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matthew Whitaker, on Newsmax. Remember yesterday, and again, this is why you have to listen every day to keep up. I said any fracturing of the administration or the GOP would be a bad thing, right? In reference to the whole fire Pam Bondi, Jeffrey Epstein, Dan Bongino thing.
Option one, they lied for years. Option two, they're engaging in a cover-up.
That's House Minority Hakeem Jeffries on the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein controversy, saying the American people deserve to know the truth, which he never once said during the 4 years of the Biden presidency, but now him and other Democrats are pushing for the release, even though it could bring down many in their own party, according to the so-called conspiracies.
Democrats didn't put the Jeffrey Epstein thing into the public domain. This was a conspiracy that Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and these MAGA extremists have been fanning the flames of for the last several years.
Oh boy, MAGA extremists. Hakeem Jeffries. Let's go to Rob Schmitt, host of Rob Schmitt Tonight on Newsmax.
A very successful first 6 months for Trump and this new administration has a cloud over it right now in the shape of Jeffrey Epstein, the wealthy pedophile sex trafficker who racked up thousands of victims, according to the DOJ, many underage, has been dead for 6 years, but the story remains. Joe Biden's White House refused transparency on the Epstein case and his alleged high-profile clients, which was not surprising at all. But Trump was elected to be a wrecking ball to destroy this kind of activity, this business as usual in Washington. No longer would the elites play by their own rules. No longer would they escape justice. And right now, many in MAGA are wondering why it appears that the president is helping the deep state conceal the Epstein scandal, considering the lengths that deep state has gone to destroy him. The truth is, nobody knows the full scale of this scandal or what the full truth really is. Nobody has this information except a select few, which is why it's so hard to figure any of this out. There's tons of speculation everywhere. Nobody really knows what's going on. But one thing is obvious at this point. The administration dug itself quite a hole by talking up this scandal and their transparency during the campaign and then really doubling down during the transition this past winter.
We need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Who's on the Epstein tapes, folks? Who's on those tapes? Who's in those black books? Why have they been hiding it?
You know, it's the same thing with Epstein's list. It's like, what the hell are these Republicans doing? What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list?
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
Yes, I would.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
All right, so to flip around after all that and say nothing to see here like they did about a week ago has been a bit of a communications disaster. What we don't know is why this is happening. There might be a fantastic excuse for what we're seeing right now, but it seems like the people are going to need to hear that excuse because this doesn't feel like it's going away. Today, the Epstein story was blacked out over at Fox. No coverage, at least not this far into the day. That doesn't help. The president has shown his frustration with the obsession over the Epstein story as he continues to rack up wins early in his first term. He wants the attention on the things he's doing. He's doing a lot of good stuff, and everybody's talking about Epstein. It's not the fault of his supporters, though, who are the ones that are really pushing this. This was a bait and switch, it feels like. Pam Bondi was on Fox nearly every day and talking about Epstein over and over and over again. And then to have this is the result. Rumors of Bongino and Kash Patel considering fleeing their leadership roles at the FBI are not helping either. These people were brought in to eviscerate the swamp, as Trump said a month after he was elected.
I will totally obliterate the deep state, stop the weaponization of our government, and overhaul the corrupt FBI and DOJ.
We're going to bring transparency and accountability back to our government, and we'll be very soon, you're going to see it drain the swamp. We're going to be draining that swamp.
Drain it. Over the weekend, Turning Point held an event in Florida. Young people at that event made it very clear they want transparency on this issue, and yes, they still very much care. It was asked to the crowd. The crowd went wild. Much of the conversations at the event were fixated on Jeffrey Epstein.
Make some noise if you care about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
Raise your hand if it matters a lot to you. Raise your hand. So every hand of 7,000 people.
I've got to be honest, I blame Pam Bondi. She has never missed an opportunity to go on television and dangle sweet nothings that might be coming your way. Try to lead you to believe that she's got it. It's on her desk. It's coming tomorrow. You're going to see something on Epstein. And it was a tease. Her words on the record on Fox News are diametrically opposed to what she put in this memo. She's embarrassed the president. She's embarrassed herself.
It was a topic. It was discussed quite often at that event, and that event is a pretty big deal. As all of this pressure mounts, Epstein's co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, doing 20 years in prison for her part in all of this, is offering now to testify in front of Congress. You really wonder what will happen with that. Google searches for Epstein are skyrocketing. Trump's the only person more popular than this guy in a Google search.
Rob Schmitt tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern. Check it out tonight. Democrats already tried to tie the issue into legislation that Republicans are hoping to pass. Last night, House Republicans voted against attaching an amendment to cryptocurrency legislation that would force the Justice Department to release the Jeffrey Epstein files. What does this tell you about the future? Trump wants to sweep it under the rug for whatever reason and just keep pushing forward. But this is going to continue to be an issue and potentially a big problem. And this as the Senate Republicans are once again facing a deadline, this time to codify nearly $9 billion in DOGE cuts. This is Kansas Republican Senator Roger Marshall, a member of the Senate Finance Committee on Wake Up America.
So, Senator, good morning to you. Now, we know some Republicans, including Appropriations Chair Senator Susan Collins, been working behind the scenes to adjust some of the White House's package, specifically cuts to public broadcasting. Is that going to water it down, or do we think this thing is actually going to get through on Friday?
Well, Mark, I think we'll get it across the finish line, and I think it's important to remember why this is so important. Our nation is $37 trillion in debt. We're spending $1 trillion a year in interest. We're asking the Republicans to do what we said we were going to do. We said we were going to cut spending. Now, the one big beautiful bill, record amounts of spending cuts, but here's a small chance to take a $9 billion bite out of the apple. This is only $9 billion. Look, folks back in Kansas are tired of the federal government spending $1 billion on public broadcasting. In today's world, I don't see that the benefits outweigh the detriment here. I think there's better things to do with that money. I think that we should proceed forward. A second point why this is important is it only takes 50 Republicans to do this. Usually in the Senate, it takes 60 votes. We got the big, beautiful bill done with 50 plus votes, and we'll do the same thing with this. I think we'll get it across the finish line.
Yeah, what are the implications, though, if we don't get it across the finish line? Congress has not agreed to cut spending, that it previously approved since Bill Clinton was in the White House. So there's a long history that it may not happen.
Well, I think that means that the swamp is still really deep up here and that Republicans aren't willing to step forward and do the right thing. Look, DOGE has found like $2 trillion of waste, fraud, and abuse over the last 20-some years, $190 billion of cuts that they would like to make through wasted contracts and NGO grants, those types of things. This is a small bite of the apple, very small. USAID, this is the number one thing on my list I gave to Elon and the team that I saw just the horrible fraudulent abuse out there that the USAID had become a slush fund for Democrats where they hired their buddies and their relatives and did all their DEI malarkey, I'll say. So this is a chance for Republicans to stand up and do what we said we were going to do. Surely 50 of us can do the right thing. Let's make America first. Let's take that $9 billion and pay down our debt.
Yeah, Senator, the president's not messing around with this one. He posted on Truth Social saying any Republican that votes to allow this monstrosity to continue broadcasting, referring to NPR, will not have my support or endorsement. Senator, I could not imagine any Republican going to their voters with a message that I'm pro-government spending.
Well, that may help Susan Collins, but the rest of us do not want to be on President Trump's naughty list, right? So Mr. Putin's on the president's naughty list right now. It's not a good list to be on, trust me. I've seen people get their knees cut off by being on the president's naughty list. But regardless, the president is America first. The Senate Republicans should be America first. We should get this rescissions package across the finish line while we have the chance.
Senate Republicans should be America first, and we should get this bill across the finish line while we have a chance. Kansas Senator Roger Marshall on Newsmax. And let's go back to where we started. In the Oval Office, President Trump was asked about the Biden Autopen scandal.
Look, the Autopen, I think, is maybe one of the biggest scandals that we've had in 50 to 100 years. This is a tremendous scandal. And I know the people on the other side of the, see that desk, that Resolute desk? Unfortunately, he used it before me. But, you know, we have our choice of 7 desks. They're all beautiful, but I chose the Resolute, and so did he, unfortunately. But the people on the other side of the Resolute desk, I know them. Lisa, the whole group, and they're no good. They're sick people. And I guarantee you he knew nothing about what he was signing. I guarantee it.
I'm going to have to take the word of the 45th and 47th President of the United States. He knows something about how that presidency works. You know, if you were, it's the same thing. If you take a job in whatever industry you're in, you know it, you learn it, you can feel it, you know certain stuff in your bones. This Hunter situation, this pardon situation, it's all no good. I guess at least with the Hunter thing, we know he signed it himself. That doesn't go for the family pardons. We're not sure about that because they were all the same signature. And it certainly doesn't go for the Fauci, the Milley, the Liz Cheney, the January 6th committee, all of those guys. Adam Schiff, Autopen galore. We think that's illegal. This thing is not over.
That is Greg Kelly, host of Greg Kelly Reports, 9 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. The Supreme Court is allowing President Trump to put his Department of Education planned cuts back on the cutting board, which could be the final chapter for nearly 1,400 employees at the Department of Education. With 3 liberal justices in dissent, the court on Monday paused an order from the U.S. District Judge in Boston, who had issued a preliminary injunction reversing the layoffs. And speaking of the Department of Education, a coalition of Democratic attorney generals is suing the Trump administration to restore billions of dollars in federal education funding, including money for after-school care and summer programs. The group of AGs representing 24 states and the District of Columbia filed the lawsuit in federal court yesterday. And in other news, the nonstop rain in the Texas Hill Country that suspended the search for victims over the weekend is easing up today, so searching could continue. And we're still learning more about the victims and the response to the historic flooding that led to the loss of more than 120 people. New information from the Washington Post says Dick Eastland, the camp's director who died trying to save campers, began evacuations at 2 a.m., approximately 45 minutes after the National Weather Service issued an alert about life-threatening flash flooding. A spokesperson for the Eastland family told the Post that they had no information that indicated the magnitude of what was coming. They got a standard run-of-the-mill NWS warning that they've seen dozens of times before. Nobody had any way of knowing that it was going to be an unprecedented flood of historic nature, right? And the NWS alert didn't say to evacuate. That is generally the call of local or state government to demand evacuation. So they did say potentially life-threatening flash flooding. It did not say anything about evacuating. On Wall Street, stocks opened mixed. The Dow was slightly lower, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ slightly higher. Oil is also pulling back a bit today. Starbucks is telling its corporate employees they need to return to the office 4 days a week, up from the current 3 days a week, which was required after 3 years of no days in the office. Those unwilling to make the change can get a one-time buyout offer on their way out the door, according to Starbucks. Bitcoin and most other major cryptocurrencies lower this morning. Bitcoin has retreated from a record high of more than 120,000 to right around 117,000. Ethereum dipping back below 3K. So the president is in Pittsburgh. There's a lot going on Capitol Hill. Be sure to keep up with all of the news and breaking developments throughout the day on Newsmax, N2, and at Newsmax.com. Also, make sure you have Newsmax Plus so you're getting all of your favorite shows and special guests. It all starts every morning with Wake Up America, followed by National Report, Newsline at noon, American Agenda, Greta Van Susteren at 6, Rob Schmitt Tonight, Finnerty, Greg Kelly, and much, much more. I'm Tony Marino. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Pay attention and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.